Now then folks, this is part 4 of everyday stuff. It's in the title. It's just things that happen when you're being self-reliant. You're not just going, oh, I'll get somebody to do that. You just turn your hand to it and just crack on. Life is full of lifey things, isn't it? So enjoy this. Cheers. This is one of the mowers, and there are two belts. One goes round there, round here, there, and the other one goes the opposite way. Okay, so to be able to change these belts, because one of them snapped and the other one is pretty, you can see it's coming apart and it's cracked round there. So to enable to get the belts on, there's not enough room between the shaft at the bottom of this gearbox and the deck, so you have to undo these 4 bolts, 2 either side, swing the gearbox this way, slide the belts underneath. So that's a bit of a pain. And these are 2 brand new B54 belts, available in town. Yeah. So that was good. They had them in stock. Yeah, and they weren't expensive. I think they were £12 each, something like that. You'd probably get them cheaper online, but I was there at the time. I just nipped round into the industrial estate. I've come back with them. So I mean these belts, they were the belts that were on this mower when I got it a long time ago. 15 years ago, something like that. Click. Click, as Jeff Bradshaw would say. Anyway, so now the bit of the pain is, because these are new belts, then obviously I don't think they're going to fit onto the rotors. I'm not sure, but I'm virtually sure they won't. But I don't think they're going to, because they will have been adjusted in the past. Somewhere down there are 4 bolts, and it slides this whole thing backwards and forwards. Let's just see if I can get this on there, but as I say, I doubt it. It's not going to happen, I don't think. That is quite tight already. So I'll have to blow all this thistle and grass off there, clean it down, put it on the tractor, lift it up so I can get to the nuts on the underside. Yeah, move this back, put the belts on, and there's a tensioning bolt at the front there, so then I can tension it up and tighten up the clamp. So there you go. It's just another thing that happens when you're in the same place for a long time and you're using equipment, however well it's maintained. Things in the end just go, no, I don't want to do that anymore. And the belt started to, the incomplete and snapped belt, it just started to fray and then got worse, and then that was it. And you know, you think, will it last another quarter of an hour just to finish this little job? And it didn't. Yeah. The fact that it snapped is either here and there, really. It snapped. It would have had to be replaced anyway. So we're just going to crack on with this, get this finished. This is quite a robust mower. It's 3 rotors, so effectively it's a finishing mower. Perhaps not quite the right thing for what we're doing, but they don't make these anymore. How many times do you hear that? Oh, we don't make those anymore. Oh, we don't stock that anymore. Oh, that's out of stock. Oh, this, oh, that. Bit of a pain, really, isn't it? Right, let's just tighten this adjuster up. That'll do. Right, then I've got to tighten all those 4 knots on, which is not easy, but leave it with me. And then we're ready. I'll just grease the bearings up again and check the oil in this gearbox. Just been making some jam pots with lids, and that was the first one. And as you can see, it's quite dry now. Yeah. And there's another one here. That's pretty good. We're happy with that one. And that's one that I threw yesterday. And there's the lid. The lids are an approximate size, but because they've got a flat bottom, I can, if I need to, trim them. But you've got to be very careful. Try and throw them to the right size using a pair of calipers. So I'm just going to just have a look at this. Yeah, I think we can cut that off the wheel now. Off the bat, sorry. Okay, so the wire wants to be flat onto the board. There we go. And that will then dry. Actually, how are we doing? Can we see? I'm going to put that on a different bat. So then I can scrape this off whilst it's still moist enough to go back in the bag. There we go. Alright. We're on a bit chaotic here. So here's the lid. Yeah. So, you know, it's all on the surface and flat on the bottom. Did that move? It moved. Okay. Turn that bat over. Can we see? Yeah, we can. Come on, off. Get off. Do as you're told. Right. Lay that flat on there. Pat it down. Yeah, good. And then clean this off. So I measure as this thing, but when I'm throwing this, as I've thrown it, I measured that gap there with a set of calipers. Yeah, and then throw the lid to suit that. So it should fit when it's green, yeah, freshly thrown, and of course they both shrink at the same sort of rate. Yeah, so we're happy with that one. Right, again, moving on. So we're on wobbly cam, and I noticed this back brake on the Honda CR-V was making a little bit of noise. So I've done the pins, I've taken all the caliper off, freed everything off. The pins weren't too bad, but I just think, well, he wanted cleaning up, make sure everything moves quite easily and what have you, so that it balances, because it's a single-sided piston. I pushed the piston back, having opened the bleed valve, so that does two things. It makes sure the bleed valve works, and also it pushes any muck that's behind the piston out, doesn't push it back into the system. Apparently, especially I think with the front brakes, if you push the fluid back, it can get into the ABS unit. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. But and the stuff I put on the slider pins is this, and I find it pretty good. It's a ceramic based lubricant, so it'll stand the heat, unlike copper slip, which eventually starts to dry up and make things stiff and not sliding. That stuff doesn't. And then of course I jet washed it off because it was absolutely filthy in here, which is why there's a lot of muck on the caliper, and I'm just going to continue and just blast that off. Yeah, we've got MOT in about a month's time, Ministry of Transport tests, so everything needs to be quite nice, and it's always good to have evidence for the MOT man that you've done work on your car. Right, okay, we were out for a walk today in the Wolds, and I came across some clay. That's not a good example. Here we go. Yeah, and that looks really quite interesting clay. Let me just zoom down on this. As you can see, yeah, it feels got a little bit of grit in it, but I would like to know, before I go any further, what the firing temperature would be. So I'm going to work a bit of this up. I know where it came from, right, and there's bits of organic matter and all sorts of things, but I suspect if you were to dig down a couple of feet, you would get to a seam of this really interesting stuff. So what I'm going to do is I just work it up a bit, yeah, roll it out, bit of topsoil there, and a little bit of stone there. So it definitely wants processing correctly. Yeah. Bone dry, break it up, put it in the water when it's bone dry so it just breaks up, then filter it. It's sort of, it might be just a slight bit dry. It's just where the plough had ploughed deeply on the edge, and it was up in the wolds, as I say, the Lincolnshire wolds. I just came across this. I thought that will be interesting. Very interesting. Right on the edge it was. That's getting a bit better now. Yeah. And then the thing to do will be, I've got a firing coming up soon. Be a bisque firing. And then I'm going to, then I can get it fired up to what they call high fire, which is like 1240 or something like that. That's degrees C. Yeah, let's get a bit more water into this. And if it fires well at that temperature, all is good. And if it doesn't, if it starts to bloat or melt or something like that, then we know we don't need to mess around with it anymore. Because in the early days I was doing earthenware firing, and of course this sort of looks alright. Earthenware firing, you're not fully vitrified, so therefore it is still slightly porous, which is not a good thing. But some clays, as I found out, start to do all the things I was talking about, bloating and melting, and then just sort of generally misbehaving because they can't stand that extra temperature. So let's just see what the plasticity is like. It's feeling not bad, but one of the things to do is to roll a sausage. Can we still see? No, we can't. Let's zoom out. Yeah, roll the sausage. Yeah, not too fat. We're getting there. Okay, now, will it bend? Yes, it will. Did you see that? Yeah. So as far as plasticity is concerned, that's pretty good. So we're happy with that. So I'm just going to roll that out and cut a piece. There was a bit of stone there, but there's odd bits of little bits in here that will come out in the processing. So this window project is moving on. Okay, that's the setting forward line, so as it sets forward into the rebate. So let's just see if I can, there we go. That's not bad. There's a little bit of, I think there's a bit of something in there that's holding it apart. So all we'll do is run a fine saw down there. Like this. Okay, and hopefully that, there we go. See, that's so much better. So I'm going to go round all these joints and make sure they're as good as that, and then glue it together. Right, and that's one movement. That's the process moving on. That one's a little bit like that. This one's alright, that one's alright. So it's just that one that wants opening up a bit. But the glass fits, and the glass fits, and there's a bit of wiggle room. So you just bed that in there, put the glass in, pack it up a bit, and then knock a couple of pins in. And those people who don't know, if you want to pin a piece of glass into a frame, you use something like this. Yeah, you put the pin there and you slide the weighted thing, as in this case is a mortise chisel. You just slide it along the glass. That way you're not hitting the glass. Hopefully that makes sense. Right, I'm going to crack on with that and leave it 24 hours. I'm not sure. Yes, it's this bit here. That bit here just wants the saw running down it. You saw how easy it was to do that, right? Leave it 24 hours, then I'm going to fit it into the existing window frame, which will mean probably planing a bit off. Fit the hinges, then take it out and then prime it, undercoat it, and 3 top coats. Yeah, just do it well. I mean, that takes me a week. You do a bit, leave it, do a bit, leave it. But the primer soaks well in, the undercoat sort of fills in a bit of the unevenness, and then the top coat. Right. Okay, here we go. Get that out of the way. Let's just roll this out. Now where's 100mm? If you remember, I did a video about the shrinkage rate of some clays. Not many people found it interesting, but that is entirely beside the point. The fact is that I found it interesting. So there we go. Now we need to write on that. There we go. And this is GUNBY, and it's 100mm. Right, okay. We can now dry that, and I'll put it in my next firing, which I'm hoping will be in 3 or 4 days' time. Yeah. And then the next time I go to Kelly Moore Ceramics, I can get this put where in the kiln up to high fire, yeah, as a test, because I have the capability of going up to 1240, but I don't do it very frequently. So and Kelly does it quite frequently, so that'll be useful just to see. Yeah, and then you know, don't you? Either then you can progress and you can go and see the landowner and say, is it alright if I dig a small hole here and take 100 weight of clay, and they either go yes or no. But that's the start. By the way, Most people nowadays don't know what a hundredweight is, and it's the abbreviation is CWT. Well, the WT is for weight, and the C is the Roman numeral for 100 or so, I believe. Yeah, but a hundredweight is 112 pounds, which is about 50 kilos. Yeah, but you know, it's one of those old terms, hundredweight. Yeah, you used to buy cement in hundredweight bags. I did not like them. They were not very nice at all. They were hard work. Right, let's crack on. Okay, we've got another kiln load here. This is dry, unfired. So we'll take this over, load the kiln up, and then later on I shall do a very slow initial warm-up firing to warm up and dry the kiln and to warm all these pots up, and I'll go to about 150 degrees over a couple of hours, then leave it, and then first thing in the morning about 6:30 I shall light again and then go up to 1000 degrees for a bisque fire. So there you go, 4 jam pots, not looking bad. They're experimental. I made up the form with the gallery on the outside, so you have a parallel face on the inside, so there's no internal lip for jam to stick in. Oh, and of course we've got some plates there. We'll see how we get on with those, and a couple of bowls. Time to crack on with that now. So there we are. These are all tight. I've measured the diagonal and they are the same, although as I've described earlier, it doesn't matter that much on this one as long as it's not the wrong way. I've got loads of these clamps. Very handy. When we were making staircases, I bought a dozen, I think, because you're clamping up the winding sets of treads. Yeah, so you just want plenty. And at that time, I can't remember, they weren't that expensive. But you know, when you're making stuff for sale, when you're a professional, you've just got to have the right kit. And you know, that was what, 30 odd years ago, and they're still useful. They haven't been thrown out. Right, let's crack on. And we're just looking at the tree nursery. These alders here, a bit difficult to see in this sun in the viewfinder. They're nearly 2 foot tall, and that's 1 year's growth. Yeah, but of course we're the middle of October, well nearly, and towards the end of next month it will be tree planting time again. And we've got some Monterey cypress here that are really bombing on quite well, which is great. And some oaks, and there's a walnut there. All sorts of stuff. So this has been looked after, obviously, during this very dry summer. Had to water it virtually every day. And we've got some cypress type stuff there. Yeah. But it's great, we've got a stock of trees to start planting. And although a lot of people don't like tree tubes, we've got hares and rabbits and bank voles and stuff like that. It's important to put tubes round each one, and of course I use recycled ones. Yeah, so there we go.